On March the 26th in the year of our Lord 2026, 3/26/26, and we have some great information for you tonight. So let me go ahead and click on my Mertech on Rumble link. Take us over here to my Rumble channel. This is the video we're going over tonight, episode 1868. Let's go ahead and jump into this. Then let me pause this. Hi, Debbie BS. Glad to see you join us. All right, well, let's slide down here and click the Show More button to expand out the description box. And we have information from Dan Bongino, Doug in Exile, The Steve Gruber Show, and Wendy Bell Radio. But before we get into that, I do have some shout-outs to give. Gary GT58 just started following my channel. D Tom 1776 just started following my channel. Ches Chich Sitch, I guess 60, just started following my channel. So thank you very much, folks, for following my channel. I greatly appreciate that. I hope you're tuned in, and I hope you enjoy the content. Okay, Debbie BS reposted my episode 1867 from last night. Jeanette J66 commented on my episode 1866 from night before last. Debbie BS and Cotton Ball 31 commented on my episode 1867 from last night. Frank Steele commented on my daily news wrap-up from 3/24/2026. Okay, that's going back just a couple of days. And Debbie BS commented on my extra 651A, my extra. So thank you very much, folks, for reposting my videos and your comments. I enjoy reading your feedback, and I definitely appreciate your support. So let me go ahead and give this a thumbs up. And if you would, folks, I have a thumbs up icon right here below the video you're watching. If you could give me a thumbs up there too, that would be fantastic. Okay, comment of the day from Jeanette J66. Let's take a look at that. Okay, enjoy your channel. Well, thank you very much, Jeanette J66. I enjoy your comments and your feedback. I appreciate that very much. Okay, let's jump back here and see what we got going here for you tonight. Dan Bongino, Is This How It Ends? Episode 2481. Let's check this out and see what he's talking about here.
The whole these prior military geniuses who are now attacking Donald Trump, as we've engaged in the most successful short-term military action probably in modern U.S. history by any objective standard. Guys, we're going way out of order today. Pull up that Brett Stevens article. I'm sorry. I'm really going to confuse you. This wasn't even for later in the show. Brett Stevens, New York Times. Can we just get this out of the way that this guy is no fan of Donald Trump? I'm using the – keep it up. Don't turn this – I'm keeping this on the screen here for a reason, and I'm using the New York Times for a reason. This is not an outlet that likes Donald Trump. Brett Stevens is no Trump guy. This is their own writing about the current status of the Iranian war. The war is going better than you think. If past generations could see how well this war has gone compared with the ones they were compelled to fight at a frightening cost, they would marvel at their posterity's comparative good fortune. They would marvel, too, at our inability to appreciate the advantages we now possess. I'll bring that up again, hopefully, later in the show, but you get the point. American military technological superiority has absolutely wiped out the Iranian regime. No matter how you measure this, by any freaking normal, sane person's reasonable, logical, objective standard, boats left, military capacity, leaders wiped out, institutional infrastructure, paramilitary street thugs wiped out. By any measure, this has been a huge victory. And the counter messaging out there by Mattis and McChrystal, who are now, for some bizarre reason, convinced their, I guess, prior strategy and other military prior strategies that never worked. They have to go and defend that? Just admit you were wrong. All right. Dug into the topic, and some of you say I get a little late. I do, but while we're on this topic, this surfaced this morning in Axios's morning newsletter. I subscribe to these things because I like to see what the left is thinking. They're actually very helpful for show prep. A lot of leakers run all over the place to them. You don't know how much of it's true or how much of it isn't. I will just caveat that. that a lot of anonymous sources. However, sometimes these outlets, sometimes a blind squirrel actually gets a nut. Here's Axios this morning about some plans supposedly that the Trump administration is putting together for a massive final knockout punch and in an exit, which I think, not having been briefed in, I've been out of the government for a while. However, and Secretary of War has their own operation. They don't, brief in the FBI and everything. Obviously, I don't want to over exaggerate here. However, the Pentagon is now developing military options for a final blow in Iran that could include ground forces and a massive bombing campaign. Barik Ravid and Mark Caputo write. They say a dramatic military escalation, will grow more likely if no progress is made in diplomatic talks, and in particular if the Strait of Hormuz remains closed. There's some options they talk about here involving Karg Island and other islands as well in the Gulf in that region there. So you can look at this yourself, but it's clear from this, and these reporters are both pretty well sourced. It's pretty clear from this that the administration is laying down markers for an exit plan. Folks, for those of us that have argued and run for office against whatever you want to call them, forever wars, and I was one of them. I ran for office. I did not support the Iraq war. I had spoken often about the podcast. Gosh, man, just go back and look. The whole library's there if you're bored one day. Not that anyone would care, but it's there. The receipts are there. I argued forever for a strong exit plan from Afghanistan. The problem with a lot of these foreign hostilities is we get in them with no exit plan. Trump's giving you the exit plan. It's already surfacing in media outlets that aren't even friendly to him. He is not there for a forever war. He is there with a certain set of metrics. Those metrics are close to being accomplished. He's given the Iranians one last diplomatic push, if you believe this source. And if it doesn't happen, there's going to be a final knockout punch. And then he's pulling out of there to get back to what we have to do here. Every single thing we've advocated against, forever wars, death to America, terrorists, all this stuff has been accomplished. Why are all these former military guys bitching and moaning? The answer, ladies and gentlemen, is this. They have anchored their entire careers, the Mattises, the McChrystals, and others. And I want to say, again, thank you for your service, okay? That's separate from your opinions, which are not always going to be valid. They have anchored, many of them, their entire careers around military and other white papers that were written about strategies that just haven't worked. And now they're watching, I'm not even beyond these two, but this larger class of former think tankers and others. I wrote a 100-page white paper, 1,000-page white paper on how we should manage the Iranian mullahs. All of that shit got thrown out the window by a builder and real estate developer from New York who just had a better idea than you. Just imagine, like, if you were a professor, some theory on, of relativity or something like that, astrophysics. And then some new guy comes along with no experience in astrophysics at all. He does like the Matt Damon Good Will Hunting, goes on the chalkboard and goes, hey, your stupid equation you've worked for 50 years on is all wrong. How would you feel? Or that is fantastic, Justin. Or something crazy like a former plumber becomes a DHS secretary. Oh, that happened. And of course, Jimmy Kimmel had to shit on him, of course, because, plumbers, by the way, Jimmy, my dad was a plumber. My dad's a pretty great guy. See, plumbers actually do stuff. They actually fix things. The reason we have a world full of sanitation where we're not all running around with nasty viruses and bugs all the time is because plumbers who do all the tough work make sure we can manage massive amounts of human waste that people like you, Jimmy, produce. You'd be dead without plumbers. You ever see that movie, 7 Days in Entebbe? The true story about the hijacking? Where the pilot, they hijack the plane, they take it to Entebbe, these revolutionaries. And there's a backup in the bathroom where the hostages are and the pilot's fixing it. And a revolutionary goofball is making fun of plumbers. And the pilot looks at him and he says, I'd trade one plumber for 1,000 revolutionaries. I would too. See, the thing about plumbers is they use their skills and their mind and their hands to make the world just a little bit safer and a cleaner place for all of us to live in. We wouldn't be able to live without plumbers. who managed to do things people like Jimmy Kimmel can't never be able to do. Did you see this clip, by the way? Now we're way out of order. Justin's like, are you even going to get back on track? No, I'm not, because it's my show. Here's Jimmy Kimmel, the DHS secretary, because God forbid, guy was a plumber. Check this out.
Don't worry, a whole new generation of thinkers line up, including his newly confirmed Secretary of Homeland Security, Mark Wayne, Chuck Mike, Bruce Dave Mullen. Maybe Mellon's better. He is the now former senator of Oklahoma. Before he was elected to the Senate, Mark Wayne Mullen was a low-level MMA fighter and a plumber. That's right. We have a plumber protecting us from terrorism now.
You know, Jimmy, I want to say something different right now, but I promise you I'm really trying to reduce the F-bombs on the show. So I'm going to pass on that. I'd give you a language alert here. But, you know, you can take all that, the script. Sure, someone wrote it down for you somewhere. Hey, Jim, we couldn't do this on radio. I think you know that. However, on the podcast, we can do kind of whatever we want. Take the script, you know, and a little paper. It's probably a big stack, too. Roll it up in a ball, Jimmy. That script edge. Trying to lip sync for those out there. So if you're listening on Apple and Spotify, I'm very sorry. It'd be difficult to read my lips. The video's only on Rumble. Right. Thank you to all the plumbers out there. Any plumbers in the chat? By the way, that's how the left looks at you, by the way. Remember, the left, these goofball shitheads on the left like Jimmy Kimmel, who's a comedian and not a particularly funny one, by the way. I think Gutfeld's got better ratings than him, and they're not even on broadcast. It's just on cable, which is hilarious if you ask me. That is amazing. You're not even on free broadcast networks, and you still got better ratings than like the king of late night, blackface Jimmy Kimmel or whatever. Here's the thing about the left and the Jimmy Kimmels of the world. Remember this. Everybody write this down. The left lives in the world of ideas. They're only infrequently smacked in the face by reality. Jimmy Kimmel is a rich Hollywood zero. He does not interact with the real world, and when he does, I promise he finds you to be a nuisance. He does. He doesn't want to associate with the great unwashed. The plumbers of the world that deal with normal, everyday people every day in their homes who are having problems, you've got all this fancy plumbing equipment now. They're out. These guys have to know a lot, like a lot. One day I had a problem with a piece of my house. I turned on a YouTube video. It was like 30 minutes long about all the things you had to do with this hot water heater. I might just call the plumber. Guy came over, bang, 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 done. You know why? They're really smart and they know what they're doing. Unlike this dipshit who reads from a prompter. What's the joke? The plumber, Mark Wayne, was a plumber, stupid guy, plumber. Unlike me, I'm Jimmy Kimmel. Jimmy lives in the world of ideas. Communism, leftist fascism, leftist national socialism. They live in the world of ideas where all this stuff is democratic, socialism, all the same crap. And then when those ideas are implemented in the real world, they get, kick me into Jimmy. They get the right in from the old Beavis and Butthead cartoon. And when the world kicks them in the balls, and crime goes crazy, and rents are out of control, and Walgreens is moving out of San Francisco. In other words, the world of ideas becomes the world of reality. People like Jimmy Kimmel start calling in the plumbers to fix it. And you know what? They always show up. If the plumbers ever said, you know what, Jimmy Kimmel, there, double-barrel middle finger to you, you can fix the backup or the hot water heater in your own house, and you can go yourself and take the script and shove it right up. Then, you know, Jimmy, good luck. Good luck. You give it a shot. I didn't even want to spend, you know what? I know you saw a lot of this, folks, and I didn't want to spend a ton of time on it, but I'm going to tell you something. I mean, I am sick and tired. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired of listening to liberal assholes shit on people every single day who use these two things called hands to go and add value to the world. And because they suck and don't do shit and live in the world of ideas like Jimmy Kimmel, they don't want the rest of the world to live in the real world either and have the glorious experience of using your hands to change the world a little bit and have somebody thank you for it. So what do? That's why they love the welfare state. That's why they love the government to pay you to do everything. That's why they don't want you to ever have to work to gain money from someone who appreciated your services enough to pay you, because they don't want the reward of you having used your mind and your hands to change the world a little bit for someone else who compensates you with value in return. They don't want any of that. They want you sucking on the government teat all the time. All the time. That is all they care about.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause that there, and he's 100% right, and that's why I share his information. Let me click on this Rumble link and show you that this video does come from the Dan Bongino Show. I'm following his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. And I will include his video in my daily news wrap-up so you can see the rest of this if you'd like. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and jump back here. All right, we got some chats going on here with Foxy Grandma and Deb Brandt. And how are things down under? And Debbie BS. But let's close that out for the time being and slide down here and see what Doug in Exile has to say. The SAVE Act crisis. Thune will be remembered for handling everything to Democrats. Okay. I don't think he's very happy.
This is where the happy patriots are. I am throwing John Thune under the...
Yeah, I don't think he's very happy with John Thune. So let's go ahead and get this going for you. Let me back this up just a little.
Welcome to Doug in Exile. This is where the happy patriots are. I am throwing John Thune under the bus on this SAVE Act stuff. I'm getting tired of him because I actually think he believes that following the rules, high-minded, he's a gentleman and all that. He's playing a game that might have been useful 25 years ago. That game is over. He doesn't realize we're about to lose the country in this next election, and he's still playing by old rules. Got no time for you. There's people that are believing conspiracies going, oh, he's paid for, bought and paid for, compromised. No, I don't think he's made a deal with the enemy. I think he's just an upstanding guy who does not know good strategy. A good man with bad strategy loses. John Thune is one of them. Good man, bad strategy. Really no time for you. And in fact, I will take a bad man with good strategy, because a bad man with good strategy can get things done. That's my theory on this one. I'm going to show you this. This is a little meme of Thune tries to SAVE Act and he runs away. This is a piece of AI that someone made online. I just thought it was funny because it says it so well. Thune is ready to go on Easter vacation coming up without doing the SAVE Act. He is not a serious politician. There's a lot of calls online for him to step down and be replaced. Never know how many of those are spam by anti-MAGA people. But I just think he's a bad guy. These old-fashioned guys got to go. You're in the wrong sport. Here's Mike Johnson. Now, people have said the same thing about Mike Johnson. Speaker Mike Johnson, but I actually think he's got a little more teeth to him. He's a little more on the Trump agenda and is a little trickier with the rules, able to play things for MAGA. Here he is on the preventable murders by illegal aliens, and he's squarely placing at the feet of the Democrats, and I like this.
This is not a game, but Democrats have shut down the exact law enforcement agencies that are responsible for apprehending and deporting criminal illegal aliens, just like this criminal here that took Sheridan's life. Congressional Democrats have held our airports, TSA, FEMA, the Coast Guard, so many critical functions of our government. We're talking about anti-terrorism matters and issues. You're talking about cybersecurity, all these things. They are holding the government hostage. Why? What is their demand at the root of all this? They want to reopen the border and they want to protect criminal illegal aliens, just like this murderer here.
That's not the full why. That he doesn't fully explain why they want to protect the criminal illegal aliens. It's not because Democrats love him to murder people. It's because they love him to vote for them. It's they want access to power. So they will protect murderous illegal aliens so long as they get access to power. Here's Victor Davis Hanson saying the same thing. Democrat Party has no values.
For all practical purposes, there is no longer a Democratic Party, at least as we've known it for 50 to 100 years. What we're witnessing in Washington as the opposition under Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries is something that we haven't really seen before. It is a full-blown socialist revolutionary party. The players of that party that are running things are not even Chuck Schumer or Hakeem Jeffries. There are people like the former Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. There are people like Mr. Talcredo in Texas, Mr. Mondami.
Mr. Tallarico in Texas. That's the gay, alleged Christian, weirdo priest, said that God was bisexual and all that. What he's saying is the more radical people are running the ideology of the party, and then the suits like Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer are just the face of the party.
Elizabeth Warren, socialist Bernie Sanders, et cetera, et cetera. They're radical leftists, and they believe in a mandated equality of result perpetuated or completed by radically high taxes from people who have been successful, and to transfer that money to people who have been unsuccessful, not because of any fault of their own or any gift or success of the wealthy, but because of oppression. And they've created a Marxist binary in the world. There's 70%, the so-called white population.
That's where the race part of it comes in. I just wanted to set up Victor Davis Hanson there because he's right that the Democrat Party, there is no leader of the Democrat Party. They don't really have a functioning ideology outside of power. That's what Marxism is, and it goes actually all the way back. This is why it's highly satanic, highly evil. Man has always been fallen since Adam, since the fall. So Marxism is the kind of ideology, an atheistic ideology that comes up, and it goes against everything that Jesus taught in the New Testament. So it's like blame others for your problems. Instead of try to be weak, you try to be strong. So it's going to oppose everything in the New Testament where other people are your problem. Don't look inside and consider your own sin and repent, or love your enemy. You'll find none of that in Marxist ideology. So people are going like, wow, how can this keep coming up? How can it have so much power in Russia, in communist China, in pagan Europe? Because it's an anti-biblical value. And all of the Christians that believe in Marxism and Democrat Party and leftism, they're all the ones that are squishy on the Bible. They do not follow the Bible. They believe in feminism. They blend it with gay ideology. It's always something plus the Bible, and the Bible always takes the back seat. We'll get into more of this satanic ideology in just a minute, because first I want to tell you, I'm excited to tell you about our incredible sponsor, say Roland 15, to call normal call. For when you call Chapter Day, free phone call or just that satanic. This is House Majority Whip Tom Emmer absolutely beating the Department of Homeland Security, the Democrats' effort against them, calling them out for what they are. Tom Emmer.
If Democrats had their way, this would be the story of every city in America. The illegal alien who killed Sharon Gorman is exactly who Democrats are fighting to protect with their needless shutdown of the Department of Homeland Security.
Again, I'm just going to say why? To protect the vote of those murderers. They do the same thing with Iran. You know, for years, Democrats were the ones saying Iran has a nuclear weapon and we have to stop. I'm going to show you this clip of all these ding-a-ling Democrat sellouts. Just watch the year on the left. See the year 2021, 2022, 2023. That's Blink on the left, Jen Psaki, Christopher Wray, FBI director, Lloyd.
Iran's nuclear program is galloping forward. It is enriching at higher levels, 20%, even 60%. In small cases, it's using more advanced centrifuges. We're now down, based on published reports, to a few months. If this continues, if they continue to enrich at the levels and in the ways they're doing, it will get down eventually to a few weeks. So that is a concrete problem. We have an interest in putting that nuclear problem back in the box, because an Iran with a nuclear weapon or with the ability to produce fissile material on very short notice to get one is an Iran that's going to...
Wow, he sounds like Donald Trump. What happened?
Iran has rapidly accelerated its nuclear program and reduced cooperation with international inspectors. Their breakout period...
Yeah, look at that journalist nodding. Yeah, someone should do something about it, huh, Jen?
...is down from about a year, which is what we knew it was during the deal, to just a few weeks or less.
Iran, the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism, has directly or by hiring criminals mounted assassination attempts against dissidents and high-ranking current and former U.S. officials, including right here on American soil.
Yeah, that's pretty bad. And you know what? Nothing about that regime had changed when Trump went in and took him out. And every one of these Democrats turned against Trump. That is, the Democrats never meant this, that they cared about Iran, that they were trying to stop Iran from doing a nuclear bomb. What they always cared more was that Trump had to lose because he took away their power. So they claim this value that they don't want to develop nuclear weapons, and then they ditch it as soon as when a Republican is in power instead of Democrats.
The president will not tolerate attacks on American troops, and neither will I.
Oh, yeah, until Trump says it.
Our teammates were killed, radical militias backed by Iran and operating inside Syria and Iraq.
He sounds like a Black Pete Hegseth. Yeah, you were right then. Here goes.
Yes, it is true. Iran is closer to a nuclear weapon than ever before. If they chose to get a nuclear weapon, could probably get one within weeks.
That was 2025, the Democrat Party. Iran, they could get a nuclear bomb in weeks. And Trump has gone in and bombed the living daylights out of them. And all they're saying is Trump is evil. Trump is evil. Here's a Democrat. I found one with a little brain in his head. That's John Fetterman. The emerging chassis of AI must be built in America. So he's doing a pro-America thing for AI. We can put appropriate guardrails in place without handing the win on AI, artificial intelligence, to China. A moratorium on AI is China first. So that's John Fetterman calling out Bernie Sanders and AOC unveil a data center moratorium bill where they want to stop the power centers that create AI here in America. And finally, here's Scott Jennings. Democrats are trying to put federal agents in jail. This is a Democrat saying that they're going to hunt down the TSA agents. Philly DA Larry Krasner, Democrat, we're going to take your faces down if you're in ICE. We're going to pay attention to your faces, and we will arrest you if we get back in power. Listen to this.
This is how it works. You commit crimes within the state, that is the city and county of Philadelphia, I prosecute you. That is how it works. No, I don't take a phone call from the president saying, let him go. No, the president cannot pardon you. I'll say it again. The president cannot pardon you.
That's to ICE agents. ICE agents, the president can't pardon you. The Democrat wants to protect illegal aliens, even if they murder their own people, because they all know they can't win without illegal votes. This is technically good news for MAGA, guys. We're winning. We have the vast majority of Americans on our side. It's just the Democrats want to cheat. Don't forget to call chapter 631-961-8696.
Okay, let me pause that there. And great information from Doug in Exile. And yeah, John Thune, I don't know what his deal is. I sure as hell hope he doesn't get reelected. I'm not sure when his term is up, but it isn't soon enough. I certainly hope that he doesn't become the leader of the Senate next go-round. I hope his ass is bottomed out. Oh, unbelievable. But at any rate, good information from Doug in Exile. I'm subscribed to his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okie dokie. Let's jump back here and see what's going on here with Steve Gruber Show, the SAVE Act, and the election integrity with Ali Triolo. Here we go. Let's check it out.
In my estimation, mass mail-in ballots are the root of all evil when it comes to fraud. It's the reason that most countries in the world don't allow for them at all. They don't even allow exceptions. Places like the UK, France, Germany, Spain, there's no mail-in ballots in those places. If you're in a hospital bed, they don't care. You still can't mail in your ballot. But here in this country, some states allow mail-in ballots as long as 20 days past the election day. Pretty remarkable. The Supreme Court just heard that case this week and said, Election Day is Election Day. Ali Triolo is joining me now. She's the RNC Director of Election Integrity. Ali, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Steve.
So let's talk about this. Look, I have no problem with military serving overseas to mail in ballots. If you really are in the hospital, I'm okay with that. If you have a reason, the way it used to be where I am is you could go in, say, I'm going to be out of town. I've got this going on. May I get an absentee ballot? Was no problem. What happened during COVID, however, was a complete perversion of the system we had in place. It's mass mail-in ballots, no chain of custody in places like Georgia and Arizona. We've seen the evidence of this. So the Supreme Court basically gets together and says we should have election day, not election month or election season. What are your thoughts?
I mean, this is the landmark case for all of us here at the RNC. We already saw a major win in Mississippi where this case originated. Watson versus RNC. What we are arguing is that this trickle in of mail-in ballots coming in after Election Day actually undermines trust, as you mentioned, Steve, in our elections, and of course, open the opportunities for fraud. So now we had oral arguments this week before the Supreme Court, and there are about 14 other states across the country that have this trickle-in period. And we are arguing that according to federal law, Congress sets Election Day, which is the Tuesday after the first Monday in November.
Yeah, I can remember, I think it was 2006 in Minnesota. Magically, a whole trunkload in a car, a trunkload of mail-in ballots were found magically, and the Democrat won and the Republican lost, which, by the way, seems to be the pattern. If you go to California, it's not just that they bring in ballots after Election Day. They keep counting up to 2 months, and we've seen this time and again. The Republicans are ahead in a half a dozen races. It's close, but they're ahead. And then over a month, all of a sudden they're only ahead by a sliver. And then by the time it's all said and done, magically Democrats win almost every seat, Allie. This is what has to stop. This is a perversion of the system. This is why a lot of people don't trust the elections. And so what the Supreme Court is weighing in is that ballots must arrive by Election Day, period. That's the argument, right?
Absolutely. Ballots have to arrive by Election Day to count, because dropping your ballot into some post office box or dropping it off and then it not being counted, is it really a vote? This is what we are arguing here. And I know that obviously the Republicans are fighting for this, but this common sense provision, what we want is really bipartisan. 83% of voters, that includes Republicans, Democrats, and independents, say that ballots should be received by Election Day to count. And I think what's so interesting about all of these election integrity, the rhetoric, the lawsuits, what we're doing, the left has tried to make it seem radical when, to be honest, it isn't in any way. Poll after poll shows more than 80% of voters want common sense voter ID laws. They want ballots received by Election Day, and they only want Americans voting in American elections. This is the law. This is the way it was written hundreds of years ago. We're about to have America's 250th birthday, and it is pivotal that our elections are secure, that we are following the law, and that all voters have trust in our elections.
Yeah, we have to have trust in the elections. And this idea that, we've seen this too. You get the applications for mail-in ballots, and you'll get dozens from the same address that turns out to be a parking lot or an empty warehouse. This is the system. That's why countries in Europe don't allow this. There's only like 35 countries in the whole world that allow mail-in ballots of any kind. We allow the most. It's a terrible plan. Everybody knows it's ripe for fraud. We need to move forward. And look, this at the Supreme Court would be a big win. There's some Supreme Court decisions coming down. The gerrymandering of Louisiana, it's going to lose, which means the Republicans are going to pick up seats because you can't gerrymander based on race. You can't accept ballots for a week or two or almost 3. One state had 20 days of allowing these ballots just to kind of keep coming in. So, the one way to win an election is to know how many votes you have to come up with. Lyndon Johnson did that in 1948 in Texas. It's well documented. He cheated to win the primary for the Senate seat in Texas in 1948. Easy thing to look up. Just how many votes do I need to win? Okay, go get me those votes. We have got to stop this.
And you know what? It's so interesting that people in America, aka the Democrats on the left, want to act like what we're asking for is crazy when, just like you mentioned, dozens of countries around the world require proof of citizenship to vote, require common sense voter ID. And you're exactly right. Don't use mail-in ballots.
Yep.
There are protections Congress put in place for our military members, those serving overseas. They have to receive their ballot at least 45 days in advance. This is a law that is in place to protect our veterans, and we need to trust that Americans are smart enough to vote on time. We know how to get an ID. We know how to follow a law, and so there's really no explanation why Democrats wouldn't want this. Also, I want to point out they are the party of rules for thee and not for me, because Kamala Harris, Barack Obama, Joe Biden, they all required people to show IDs to attend their campaign events, their rally events. It is ridiculous. But when it benefits them to all of a sudden do away with it, then they don't want it. I also want to say, speaking of voter rolls, removing non-citizens, last year the RNC launched the largest ever public records request, 48 states and DC asking for states to accurately maintain their voter rolls. We can't have non-citizens. We can't have dead people. This is the law, and this is how we protect the ballot box for all Americans.
Absolutely true, Allie, and I hope this is a successful challenge, because if it goes the other way, if for some reason the Supreme Court, and I never predict Supreme Court cases very often, although I think the gerrymandering case out of Louisiana is pretty much a slam dunk based on what I heard. But in this case, if they said, well, we can't interfere with mail-in ballots, well, you could extend it to 40 days, 100 days. You could extend mail-in ballots until the next election if it goes the other way. And that is not acceptable. Last word to you.
Absolutely. I agree. We are hopeful. We are fighting. The RNC is doing everything we can to work in lockstep with Republicans in the House and Senate and President Trump to do the right thing and secure our elections. Thank you so much for having me this morning, Steve.
Allie, nice seeing you today. Thank you for that. And we're going to watch this case. It seems to me, reading the tea leaves, that this will go the right way. But again, it's difficult to predict the Supreme Court. You have wild cards out there. You never know quite where it's going to come down. But I believe these two cases, very important. Mail-in ballots must be in by Election Day, right? That's number one. The case out of Louisiana may be bigger because of racial gerrymandering of Louisiana congressional districts is going to get tossed out 6-3. I'm almost certain of that. That will also do something else you're not being told. It should freeze the redistricting in California and Virginia. Should stop that from happening because both states used racial quotas for their redistricting. You can't do that. You simply cannot do that. I think the Supreme Court comes down in the right place. Make sure you follow me on all those social media platforms if you have not already. X, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Getter, all the great places, all right? I'll take a break and be right back.
All right, good information. And again, you know, as she mentioned, 83% of people in the United citizens, that is, in the United States, including Democrats. I think Democrats are even 64% or 62%, somewhere around there. Of course, independents are like 87%, and Democrats are at like 93%. But, you know, everybody's in favor of this by a majority, supermajority. And John Thune is dragging his ass. I wonder why. What a worthless rhino cork biter. Okay, here we are. This video, clicking on the Rumble link, comes from the Steve Gruber Show. This is the video I shared with you. I'm following his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, let's jump back here, and let's see what Wendy Bell has to say. Punishment is the point. Let's check it out. Ooh, nice picture.
You know, I like to give props where they are due, and Carl Higbee, a definite boyfriend of mine, though he is unaware of that fact, over at Newsmax, had a monologue the other day that Brock in particular liked so much. And Brock, what was it about? It was about pain. It was about punishment. What was that again?
It was about all the lawfare that they're doing with people in the past and
basically
Trump and everything.
Punishing you is the name of the game, making you feel pain, whether it's uncertainty, which I think sometimes can be worse than physical pain, whether you're worried about your safety or your finances or your children or the future of Western civilization, whatever it is that you chew on. The Democrats, the deep state, uniparty, people who suck, need you to suffer. They are punishing you. I believe the punishment is because you people, capital Y, capital P, you people did this to them. You stopped the gravy train. How dare you? You stood up and you decided that you wanted something better. You wanted to decide for yourself. You didn't want them to tell you it was going to be Hillary. You didn't want Hillary. Hillary sucked. Hillary has always sucked. You didn't want a president who sucked. And so what did you do? You people who they are intent on punishing. You voted for the one guy who had his finger on the chain of the drain of the swamp and was like, oh yeah, who wants to pull it with me? Drain the swamp. He's up there with lock her up, right? I believe that everything the way Carl Higby had said in his monologue, saying, you know what, punishment, that's the plan. That's the whole thing. They need us wounded and needy. They need to break you. Look, I'm going to say something right now. If you live in a Democrat blue hellscape, and I'm going to say Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania is one of those things, okay? Don't come to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Don't come, because personally, it is embarrassing, because somewhere along your journey, there is going to be a car ride, whether it's from the airport or it's from another zip code. You're going to drive into southwestern Pennsylvania, and it is embarrassing. The garbage, the filth, the lack of any kind of dignity, respect. It looks like we live in a slum. You know, the only saving grace about living in Pittsburgh right now is the NFL draft, I guess, is coming to town. So there's like 4 people out picking up a little bit of garbage. So at least for the cameras, it doesn't look like a nightmare. It's disgusting. That's by design, ladies and gentlemen. Why ever would you want to live in a safe, clean, happy, beautiful, green, manicured, blooming environment? Why would you ever want that? Why do you think they take perfectly reasonable streets and put all sorts of traffic barriers and cones and speed humps and stupid roundabouts and yields that didn't exist and prevent you from turning right on red? It's all to gum up the works, to slow you down, to make everything suck just a little bit more. Why? They will never forgive you, ladies and gentlemen, because you put a spike strip on their gravy train. You're like, no, I don't think so. And all of a sudden, the Russia collusion thing had to be born. Something hastefully, poorly executed by a bunch of dimwits who were so used to getting away with it. And they went with knives out and the guns locked and loaded to take down the man that you and I wanted to save this country. Pain is the punishment. Punishment is the plan. Think about what they did to you during COVID. They didn't give you choices. They didn't give you options. They gave you fear. They gave you breathless breaking news reports, death updates. They fiddled with the coroner's reports so that the numbers were inflated so that you would do what? Oh my gosh. Stay home. Stay calm. Stay voting by mail. All 15 of you, right? Think about what they did to education. Why is it that anything they touch goes to crap? I want to share a few numbers with you guys because I was just curious. You know, we don't get to vote on war, do we? Nobody comes to us and says, hey, this is sort of like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, some kind of a game show, right? Everybody's got a clicker. We're going to come out. We're going to do a consensus thing, all right? We want to know, what do you guys think about going into this dirtbag country? Good people, possibly, and the Iranians. Very nasty regime. What do you think we go in and we dismantle it? Number 1, blow the crap out of them. Number 2, I don't think that's nice. And let people decide. Because you know what? Guess how much money you and I have spent on war since 2000. Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria, helping Israel and Yemen. $8 trillion, you guys, since 9/11, I should say. $8 trillion. That's $24,000 a person, ladies and gentlemen. if we're going to do the math. How about public education? How much you pay for that? You've spent $25 trillion as an American taxpayer since the year 2000. For what? Failure. We have illiterate children in this country and teachers who are more interested in grooming kids and getting them into the transition closet or to pay for their abortion than they are worried about teaching, I don't know, reading and math. $25 trillion. How about healthcare? How's that working for you guys? Doing real well with that? Obamacare helped you out a ton, brought everything down, your insurance. If you like your insurance, you can keep your insurance. If you like your doctor, you keep your... No, you can't. No, you can't. And you know what also isn't going to happen for you? It's not going to be affordable. So you know what you're not going to do? You're not going to go to the doctor because you can't afford it. $70 trillion we have spent in America on healthcare since the year 2000. Ladies and gentlemen, if we add it up for every single man, woman, and child in this country, deducting, of course, or reducing the number by 20 million illegal aliens, if we were to do the math, you and I individually have all paid more than $500,000 on just those three things: war, education, and healthcare. You guys feeling good about that? Feeling better? Feeling like you're getting your money's worth? Or do the taxes keep going up, the services keep going down, and there's garbage all over the side of the road because, taking care of your backyard is apparently a little too much for the blue states? Look, I don't like to share this news with you, but it's not like you don't already know. Pain and punishment. That's the plan. Donald Trump wants you to educate your children the best way you can. He wants it to be free. He wants there to be American academies of excellence that are rooted, steeped in tradition about the founding fathers. He wants you to get the best healthcare you can for quality prices, right? Lowest prices, most favored prices. He's already chipped away at it. What does he want to do with your children? He wants you to make the decisions for your children, not some bureaucrat, not some teacher, not some loser who sees your child as a piggy bank of money-making potential. This president wants you to live safely. He wants to blow up and eradicate the booga man that lives around every corner. He wants you to have peace through strength. Pain, ladies and gentlemen, punishment. How about we have a little easing of that? How about we have some healing? Well, if we're going to do that, we should probably start talking about the dumpster fire that is the state Commonwealth of Virginia. If I think Pennsylvania's got it bad, Virginia's got us knocked out. Ready to hear what they're doing with illegal alien dudes in high schools? Oh my. Next on the Wendy Bell Radio Network.
Unbelievable. She definitely knows how to put it. So, she says exactly what we're all thinking. That's why I love to share her stuff.
Blue State Blue. Welcome back to the Wendy. Welcome back to the Wendy Bell Radio program. We're going to dig in subsequent segments today into more of this like blue state blues, this whole blue idea, the Democrats, all of the things that they do that are meant to drive you crazy, that are meant to ultimately have you succumb, throw in the towel, bend a knee and submit, just be like, please, live my life for me. That's what they want. They want to control, right? Virginia is out of control. And in fact, yes, it might be more of a dumpster fire than even New York, Maine, or even California. We're not talking about politician pay raises or skyrocketing taxes or any new laws that trample all over the Second Amendment, because that's going on too, I will tell you that. This is a story about illegal alien men being allowed to enroll in Virginia high schools up to the age of 22. How do you guys feel about that? What could possibly go wrong, right? We're going to take a grown man who's 19. We're going to allow him to enroll in high school where there are 14-year-old girls walking in the hallway. What's going to happen? Oh, yeah, they're going to get molested. Wait a minute. Is that what happened? Yes, it was. This is the story from ABC 7 News. The story you literally have to hear to believe. In what world is this okay?
7 News was the first to report about an 18-year-old high school junior who's in the country illegally and has been charged with multiple counts of assault. He's accused of groping girls in the hallways of Fairfax High School. Tonight, 7 News is pressing Fairfax County leaders for answers, including whether this had been going on for months before he was arrested, as the lead prosecutor said in court. Our Nick Minock has this story, all new at 6.
These Fairfax County mothers say this man, Israel Flores Ortez, put his hands in between their daughter's legs and groped them in the hallway at Fairfax High School. More than a dozen girls have come forward to report Ortez did the same to them. Some students are just 13 years old. Ortez will be 19 in June. He's a junior, and he's an illegal immigrant.
What do you think about your experience so far with the school system handling this situation?
Abysmal. I think from the very beginning, Fairfax County has attempted to diminish what happened to these girls. They have attempted to sweep it under the rug.
These parents say the school district withheld information about what was going on from families. The principal's email referenced the assaults as buttocks touching.
They are aware of what happened, and I'm disgusted.
I didn't think much of it when I got the email on Thursday night because it was pretty vague.
Stacy Langton has 2 daughters at Fairfax High. When she read the principal's letter, she thought it was nothing to be concerned about until she saw our reporting about what police say really happened.
Just thunderstruck by it. We're all angry. Who wants their daughters being sexually battered and groped in the hallways during classroom changes at school by adult men?
Can anybody explain to me what's going on with this war on women and why the vagina hat mafia out there isn't pissed about it? Where are you girls? You were banging on the doors of the Supreme Court when Brett Kavanaugh was being lied about. This is a demonstrable, actionable problem. You've got a dozen underage girls. I don't care if you're 50. I don't want somebody putting his hands up my skirt. And the school knew about it. And they downplayed it as though Al actually was just trying to grab their butt. That makes it much better. On what planet? Where are we? How do you defend this? So now this is where the story bounces back to the live reporter on the scene. Bill, thanks, Bob. Well, he says, look, this isn't the only problem in the Virginia school system. I was like, what?
These parents want answers, and some of them are calling on Fairfax County Public Schools to launch an independent, comprehensive investigation, similar to the investigations FCPS launched when there was a football recruiting scandal at Hayfield Secondary School and Fairfax High School, along with the investigation they launched at Centerville High School when staff members there were accused of funding and facilitating abortions for underage students. Today, I reached out to the Fairfax County School Board and the City of Fairfax School Board for a response. They have not responded. Nick Knox, 7 News.
Now, 7 News was the first to report this story, and we spoke exclusively with the victim's parents. We also learned immediately after his arrest earlier this month, ICE issued a detainer for Ortiz to deport him, but ICE says the Fairfax County Sheriff is not honoring that detainer.
In what world? Well, in a Democrat sanctuary hellscape. Can you imagine your daughter coming home and telling you that some rando guy who's 19 and shouldn't be in her high school, but can be until he's 22, because that's what the law says, put his hands between her legs? You'd be Scott Smith. I would be too, whose daughter years ago was anally raped by a boy pretending to be a girl who the school district in Loudoun County tried to support, and they bounced him to another school where he did it to another girl. Tell me now, exactly what pain and what punishment the Democrats want to foist upon us? To what end? To what end? I don't know. But I understand that Father Scott Smith, when he stood up to say to the men and women in the school board meeting, by the way, transgender boys who want to pretend they're girls can still rape my daughter. By the way, in Texas, you can be an illegal alien and be in high school up until 26. What? When we come back on the Wendy Bell radio program, my friends, President Trump's Benjamin Netanyahu problem next. Well, welcome back to the Wendy.
They can cancel your accounts, freeze your cards, decide what you're allowed to buy, say, or support. Big banks and financial institutions have total control, and they use it. That's why financial independence matters more now than ever.
Introducing Rumble Wallet, a wallet built for real freedom. With Rumble Wallet, you control your money, not a bank, not a government, not a tech company. Designed for patriots who stand tall, this cap captures the enduring spirit of liberty. The Liberty Bell stands proud. This isn't a credit line they can shut off, it's your wallet, permanently. Yours to protect your future.
Yours to protect your family. When the system fails, when institutions turn on their own people, financial sovereignty is the difference between security and vulnerability. Buy digital assets like Tether, Tether Gold, and Bitcoin in one secure place. No permission. No middlemen, no cancel button. And when you want to support the creators you actually believe in, you can use the Rumble Wallet app to directly tip content creators securely, instantly, and without interference.
This isn't a credit line they can shut off. It's your wallet, permanently. Yours to protect your future. Yours to protect your family. When the system fails, when institutions turn on their own people, financial sovereignty is the difference between security and vulnerability. Rumble Wallet isn't about politics, it's about freedom, ownership, and protecting what's yours. So take control today. Download Rumble Wallet now and step away from the big banks for good. True ownership, true protection, true financial freedom.
Okay, before we close this out, I do want to jump back here and read the chat from Zerefra. Only students with special needs can, as per an individual IEP, individual education plan, can allow continuing their education until they age out at 22 years of age. Students here illegally have no business in our schools. That's absolutely correct. Thank you so very much for your chat. And I copied that into the comment down below. But as I said, folks, I'm going to have my daily news wrap up with all this great information. It says I have 24 videos in here, about 10, 11 hours worth of information. So go ahead and take a break right now. Grab a cup of coffee and a donut, or a sandwich and a soft drink, or a beer, or maybe a nice glass of wine and some cheese, and meet me back here in about 15 or 20 minutes. Let me get all this set up in Rumble Studio, and we'll get this going. Great information. I hope to see you soon. But in the meantime, I do thank you for being here with me. Hopefully, I will get to see you again later, and may God bless.